A big welcome to Sam. So nice to have you here. Baruch Hashem, welcome. It's good being amongst friends. Shalom, shalom, chevron. We are speaking about the very exciting topic of the dark side. Wow, the dark side. Sounds great. Sounds a bit like a vibe. It's going to be a vibrant class today. So the dark side, we said, is represented, shalom, chevron, is represented by the power and the archetype in the Torah known as Esav. Esav, who's the brother of Yaakov, represents the denial of the point of godliness in everything. And we said that was symbolic of Esav denying the firstborn. What did Esav do with the firstborn? Meshulam? He sold him for what? Some red stuff. The firstborn, you know what that means? What it means to be the blessing of the firstborn? You're like, yeah, what's so bad about that? I'll take some lentils over that. Having the blessing of the firstborn means you have the power to see God in everything. The first point. The conscious beginning of all existence in everything. And instead of Esav choosing that as a way of life, he chose instead a pot of soup, which essentially meant that he chose physical life as an end to itself, which, by the way, is a lot of what the world chooses on a daily basis. Let me just invest so heavily in physicality as an end to itself without looking if there's a message, if there's a secret, if there's a reason why things are happening to me in my life. That point called the reason why things are happening, called the God point in everything, is called the Bechorah, it's called the firstborn, it's the power of Yaakov, represented by Jacob. And everything that we're learning right now is all a response that somebody came to Rebbe Nachman, and what did he say to Rebbe Nachman? He said, Rebbe, my prayers are not being answered. I'm davening, but Hashem is not listening. And what did Rebbe Nachman say to him? You don't have chen. You're missing grace. You're missing grace. Chen means that grace. And therefore, if you don't have grace, then the one whom you're asking from is not going to give you. We spoke a lot about grace, what that means to have grace. We spoke about once you have grace, your whole life opens up because you're beautiful in God's eyes. Once again, we said the way to get there is to learn Torah. To learn Torah. We spend a lot of time learning Torah, and we're going to develop that more right now. And we said that Esav covers up the God point in everything. And then we explained this analogy of the sun and the moon. We said the sun is the source of all the light. But sometimes if you want to look at the sun, it's too powerful. Are you able to look at the sun right now? It happens to be 3 o'clock in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem. The sun is very strong. It would not be a good idea to sun gaze right now. It's not advisable. But what is able to take that light of the sun and reflect it to us in a way that we can receive it? It's called the moon. So we spoke at length, we're not going to go over it now, about becoming like the sun and understanding, but if we're not able to get to that point, to become like the moon. And we said the qualities of the moon is to be able to nullify yourself. That's the nun, that's the moon. We said that's the quality of a Jewish king, the moon. As opposed to the kings of the world that say, I'm a big shot, the moon says, I'm nothing. And if the moon said, I want to be of somebody, would it be able to reflect the light of the sun? No, it would push away. See, how do we think? In order to receive something, then we usually think, I need to be some big shot. But you don't realize, the more you have in your cup, the less you can put into it. The more you empty out the vessel, you empty out the ego, the more God can fill up with all good things. We said that Esav rejected that philosophy. He rejected there's a first point in everything. So now we're going to take this even one step further. And we're going to talk about how you have two friends inside of you. I'm about to introduce you to two of your very close friends that are inside of you. They're very old. One's older than the other one. I'm about to introduce you to your good inclination and your evil inclination. Okay? Which one do you think is older?
Evil.
Which one's older? You good? Oh, you're so positive here. That's so nice.
Oh, yeah, it's really good because when God creates the world, it says it's good. He doesn't say anything about it. He says what the day is good.
When do you get your good inclination?
So
it's interesting. You get your good inclination when you're bar mitzvah. That's really what the simcha, that's what the pleasure of the bar mitzvah is. Even though you get lower levels of your good inclination when you're 3, when you get your upshare, then you cut out and get the pace and tzitzis, and you get other levels, but you really get the main part of your good inclination when you're 13. You get another level when you're 20, and you really develop it your entire life. But at 13, you really go from essentially being totally selfish to starting to have a consciousness of a neshama, of a soul inside you. When do you get your evil inclination? It's a machlokes, either when you're conceived or when you're born. Either when you're conceived or when you're born. And as such, who's got a 13-year head start? That's right. Now, when I say your evil inclination, I don't mean that it's necessarily telling a person to do evil. When we think evil, I think of like Darth Vader, destroy the universe, evil. Evil just means self-centered, totally absorbed in oneself, not able to see another person, not able to see the needs of humanity, not able to see God, not able to see a bigger story, just totally in this insulated world of me and nothing else. That's called the evil inclination. That's why kids, for the most part, who are they concerned with? Themselves. From the time the kid comes out of the womb, you know, how old's our daughter now? 4 months old. So I'm thinking to my wife, like, she's 4 months old. All she does is eat and sleep. You know, she's freeloading the whole day. And when's she gonna get a job already? Like, I'm paying her bills, and it's just going on. And my other kids also, it just keeps going on like this. I one time saw a very cute, you know what a onesie is? It's like a baby one thing with the buttons on the bottom. Like the buttons, so it said, bald, unemployed, and still living at home. That's very cute, right? That's a good one. That's good one. It's so funny because you don't expect it to be any other way. You don't tell that kid, go to work. Like, what are you freeloading? You make some money around here. Pull your weight. You know, why don't you care about my needs? I come home, I was like, please help the baby. She's crying, the geferlich. I'm thinking, maybe she should help with mine. I had a very long day. Maybe the baby should, sit and listen to what I have to tell. I have some also needs. But it's so obvious that we don't think that way because, come on, it's a baby. You don't expect it. Why? Because we understand the baby, I'm asking you to put on deeper glasses, lumdus glasses, because the baby has not developed a Yetzer Tov yet. The baby is totally self-absorbed. Not that that's bad, per se, that's just the reality. As the baby grows older, and we hope all of us, you become sensitized to your good inclination. And your good inclination thinks big, thinks about other people, thinks about altruistic things. Sadly, there's people that are 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old and they're still living totally self-centered, self-absorbed lives. Yeah.
So a good parent will teach their young kids to say thank you.
That's right.
But if all they have is a Yetzer Hara, they can learn to say thank you and not get punished, but are they learning gratitude?
Excellent, that's a very beautiful point. The answer is they're not learning it in the deepest way possible, but when you train somebody, that training creates something called hergel, something called habituation. That habituation, while it might not totally seep into the core of their being, it begins to start the process in the right direction. We know that a person is, it's amazing seeing, I've always been fascinated in certain parts of quantum physics where they show how brain tissues shift based on thought patterns. And basically how when you think about something, you're creating new neural pathways in your brain. I always found that very interesting. That's why a person thinks usually the same thoughts over and over. It's very hard to get out of either a negative thought pattern, or when you're in a positive thought pattern, it's good because you're in it. You're a positive thinking person. So when you get a kid always saying thank you, even if it hasn't influenced the core of them, they're setting these neural pathways that, oh, that's what we do. They said a funny thing that it's old in the times of Avram ben Rambam in Egypt. They wanted to see, there were people who claimed that you really can't, that they could train a cat to carry dishes and be a waiter at this royal palace. And the great sage of the time, Avram ben Rambam, said, I'm sorry, but a cat is a cat. As much as you train the cat, and you habituate the cat to be able to carry a dish and to be able to stand up on its hind legs and like wave to the people coming in and dress them in a bow tie, you can't. It's an animal that cannot be changed. He was really showing that the animal doesn't have the same soul as the human. That was the inner point of it. So the emperor said, let's put it to the test. And of course, when they put something to the test, if you lose, off with your head. So the great Torah sage knew that he was right. And came the party, and the cats were going around with little trays and stuff. Hors d'oeuvres, the little wieners and the hot mustard, and going around to all the chevra there. And it appeared as if the rabbi was proven wrong, and they were able to train these cats. All of a sudden, the great rabbi, Avram ben Rambam, took out of his pocket a little mouse. A little cage, he threw the mouse. All the cats went nuts, threw their trays in the air, pounce on the mouse. He said, a cat is a cat, my friend. You can't teach a cat. When the mouse comes out, the cat's a cat. The cat's a cat. And he's bringing out the point that animals do not have this ability to change their essential nature. They're programmed with a certain instinct, and that will stay with them, which is not the case of humans. That we have both the animal side of us, which is the totally instinctual side, which is self-absorbed, but we also have the godly side. We speak about a lot of this in extreme detail in the Tanya, in our Tanya class, which goes into really the Kabbalistic anatomy of your godly soul and your animal soul. Okay? So now we're building up that we have this good soul and this bad soul. And when I say good and bad, you understand good means godly consciousness. Bad means self-absorbed. And a person that becomes that self-absorbed, it can lead to horrible things. God forbid a person could murder somebody because that life doesn't matter. God forbid. Or steal something because it doesn't matter. I don't see any importance that you own this possession because I'm totally living in myself. And therefore they might be cruel, mean. They might say lashon hara because you don't matter. All that matters is me. I always get so crazy when I see a person. Not crazy, I'm saying, I feel so bad. When you see somebody having road rage, you almost like, if you videoed them and then somehow could send them the video of them, what they looked like, it would be horrible, it would be horrendous. It's like they literally lose themselves. They're not. So I'm just driving. I happen to drive very cautiously, carefully. I think that's the right way to drive. And then I see some guy, and whatever happened, and he took like an extra second by the light or whatever it was, and the guy behind was going nuts. And then he speeds up and tries to cut him off. Like, are you nuts, man? This fast. We're on a road. Your life depends. No. He doesn't understand. I have to get somewhere. It's crazy. It's insane. That's called living at the clutches of the evil inclination, living at the clutches of the consciousness we call Esav. Okay? So we're building it up. Look inside, says Rebbe Nachman. When I say look inside, I mean to see these Hebrew letters. Because I know it takes time, and a lot of people, both here and around the world, are just still learning to read the Hebrew letters. It's very important. The more you read the Hebrew letters, the more it will come to you. You'll start getting it. Just even looking at them is very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Gemara says that oisius machkimos, just looking at the letters make you wise. These are the letters that created all of creation. You know that? Creation was created through the 22 Hebrew letters. How that works, it's a much longer discussion. That's basically all of Kabbalah. How the world is being created through the 22 Hebrew letters. So when you see the letters, it's very, very powerful. This is what the Yetzer Tov is and the Yetzer Hara. Ki ha-Yetzer Tov nikra miskein v'chacham. He's quoting from King Solomon in Koheles. Because the Yetzer Tov is called a youthful, miskein means poor, v'chacham, a poor, youthful, wise kid. Interesting. The Yetzer Tov is called as poor, youthful, wise one. Miskein doesn't just mean poor, it means, like we're explaining, that he hollows himself out. He's poor by saying, all I have is from you. Okay? And he's youthful because he's younger than the Yetzer Hara. Right? Who changes? Old people or young people? Young people. People that are young have this power to change. They have an expression in the world. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. There's something about that. When someone gets old, it doesn't have to be in years. A person can get old even when they're young in age. They get set in their ways. They get set in their ways. That's why you should know people, when you guys you're going to be dating, be careful. You want to date somebody that's young. I don't mean young in age. I mean young in spirit. That they have a young way about them, that they're youthful, that they're open to the adventure of life, that they're open to new things, to new concepts, to even just to make a marriage, you got to be open. It's a totally new person you're about to make your life with. And even if you tell me, we've been living together 7 years, and we know everything about each other, yeah. As soon as the person gets married and it becomes tied a knot, it's a whole different story. Because everyone gets nervous, like, uh-oh, now it's actually for real. And now I have to really get to know this person. And you have to learn how to work together and to face new things. Old people, this is the way I do it, this is the way it is, I'm not changing. That's called the way of the Yetzer Hara. What's the Yetzer Hara called? Bechinas Malchus. Shehi bechinas aniyah v'dala. The Yetzer Tov is poor, is, like we said, he only has what God gives him. That's why the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, only wants to do God's will. That's why when you're living with your good inclination, you are in the God mode. You're so lit up with life, with God consciousness. It's good. The leis lamegar meklum. That the Yetzer Tov has nothing except ki'im mashem mekabelos mechachma. He's also saying Kabbalah here. Except what is received from the seichel shebechol davar, from the sun, from that light, from the God consciousness. The good soul is this youthful, like a young king, like King David, who says, I have nothing, and God says, I'm going to shine everything into you. But now we get to the dark side. The Yetzer Hara, what's the Yetzer Hara called? What's the quintessential definition of the Yetzer Hara? Melech Zaken Uksil. The Yetzer Hara is called, who can translate those 3 words? Melech Zaken Uksil. Melech is a king.
Old Zaken.
Zaken is old.
And Kasil is like
A fool. An old foolish king. Old foolish man. An old foolish king. He's a king, but he's a foolish old king that never changes his ways, and he can't leave his own way of seeing things. It's very sad when you try to have a discussion with somebody, and it's so obvious in the beginning of the discussion that they're set in their ways. Why? Because I've been thinking this way yesterday, and the day before, and the week before, and the month before, in the last 10 years, the last 50 years. That's how I hold. That's what I think. Weinberger always says over the story that there was a couple that came to him. The wife was getting very, very nervous because the husband was screaming at her. And any wife would be nervous about that. That's a horrible home to be in. And it was a type of screaming that they had to go to the Rav, to the rabbi. It's like what's going on here? And he had the couple beside in his office, and he said to the husband, I hear that there's tension. What's going on? And he saw the husband getting red. He thought he was going to yell. The rabbi's like, he's going to attack me. He said, Rabbi, you have to understand. I yell because my father yelled, and his father yelled, and my great Zayda yelled. I come from a long lineage of angry men. I have a Yerusha of anger. I have a big Yerusha of angry men. That's what I do. That's my mahalach. That's how I get things done. And he's like, you're not getting things done here. You're pushing your wife away, chas v'shalom. What do you think that's happening? Just because your father yelled, you can be a yeller? Adarabah. Just because your father yelled, it means you should think, and you should have realized that messed with you. And you want to be a sweet husband, a good husband. But the Yetzer Hara doesn't think that way. It thinks, this is the way it is. I've been doing it like this, I'm stuck in that way. The Yetzer Hara is open, is wise, as Chachma is able to receive that light. The Yetzer Hara is stuck. So I want you guys to think today, what are the things that I'm doing in my life that I'm stuck in my Yetzer Hara? What are the things that I'm doing in my life that I'm really only doing it just because that's what I did yesterday and the day before? And they're actually not serving me. They're actually probably usurping my happiness and my ability to grow in this world. But I'm just stuck in it because that's what I've been doing. I overeat. Why? Because I did that yesterday and the day before, and I made a New Year's resolution, but it never fits. Or I'm overweight, or this, or that, whatever it is, or I yell, I'm impatient. It's like the way I am. No. I want now, today, you guys to think and start to identify even just one thing. That I'm doing it because I'm just stuck in it, because that's what I've been doing. And Bezrat Hashem, if we get in touch with that, we're going to identify what's happening inside of us, and then Bezrat Hashem give more power to the side of good, and push away the side of Esav, and unify with the side of Jacob, with Yaakov, and to reclaim the Bechor, reclaim that firstborn point of the God consciousness and everything, and receive that, and with that have the chayin that all of our tefillah should be neskab b'rachim all made. Have a wonderful day, Chevra.